everyone, it's Sarah from Sassy Reads, and today I'm going to be talking about some of the books that I read in the year of 2018. So, we're going to start this video with a bit of a sour note. This is one of my least favorite books that I've read this year. Actually, I think it's like, not my most hated, but at least like in the top 5 of most hated. The Heart Goes Last by Margaret Atwood. I gave this book 1 star. I was excited to read this one because I was such a huge fan of The Handmaid's Tale when I read it as a senior in high school. And to this day, I still think it's a brilliant novel. I've read through chapters since then. I think it's iconic. It's gripping, powerful, moving. The Heart Goes Last, on the other hand, was not gripping, not moving. The satire here left a bad taste in my mouth. The content was lackluster. So let me first tell you what this novel is about. So we're in this society, a dystopian society, where everything has gone to pot. So it's your typical Atwood setting in a dystopian world. There's no joy here to be found. Well, the problem is our couple that we follow, whose names are Camille? No, their names are Stan and Charmaine. Completely off in names, sorry. Yes, Stan and Charmaine, they're our 2 main characters. We follow them from dual points of view, back and forth. And they're broke, they're desolate, they're at wit's end, and they are offered with the opportunity to get paid to live in Positron. And Positron is like this idyllic Stepford home living. The problem is that it's televised and controlled, and it's a prison. So like, they're like not televised to the public, but more like televised with cameras and stuff, so they're under constant supervision, and it's a prison. So that's okay. Let me backtrack. The prison is where they live when they're not in Positron's town of idyllic living. So you get to have the suburban experience 1 month, and then you go to prison the next month and you work for them, which is great commentary on our prison system, backing us for consumerism in America, because if you didn't know, prisons do nothing but make people stay there so they can make money. That's why we have such prison overcrowding population problems. And this follows Stan and Charmaine in this Positron area. But it's more than that, because they are some sex deviants. This novel is all about sex. And if you're listening to the audiobook, which is horribly narrated, by the way, I don't recommend the narration at all. Literally, this was one of the most grating audiobooks I've ever listened to. The only reason I kept reading it was because it was on my summer TBR, and I was like, I am completing this. And I had hope that Margaret Atwood would redeem herself and that this novel would not be a disappointment, but it was a disappointment. It did everything in the wrong way. I love satire. I don't mind your novel taking things to the next level with gratuitous sex and stuff. Every chapter, though, every single chapter, to the point where they're literally like doing nothing. A character falls in love with a teddy bear. She imprints on him. What? That's the level of ridiculousness for this. And it was not my cup of tea. I'm incredibly disappointed by it. I had thought that Atwood had just, because this is a more recent Atwood, I think that this one was published in 2014. It's a serialized novel, so like it was published by part, which you can definitely tell because there are moments where this thing does not flow well. It is, I don't recommend it. Out of all the Atwood, stay away from The Heart Goes Last. Even though the premise of 1 month you live in a prison and 1 month you live in suburban living is interesting, is not worth it, folks. Not worth it. So, now that I'm still heated about that, let's go on to another book that was disappointing. A Part of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. So, I love the ACOTAR trilogy. I have a full-length review for all 3 books on my channel, like a series review. I'll leave a link for that down below. I love those books. ACOWAR was one of my favorite books in 2017. ACOFAS is not one of my favorite books of 2018. It's a novella, so it's like really super short. Like, look at how tiny this book is. It's so short, and these books are usually like 500 plus pages. But this is not it, so it's a novella, which should just be called a regular novel because it's regular novel length. Whatever. Cash grabs. It's okay. So, this taught me that this is the end of Farah and Rasan for me, because their story arc was interesting for 3 books. This felt too drawn out. I don't care too much for their slice of life living because I got enough of that in the books when they weren't at war to feel complete. They were just going at it like rabbits, and it wasn't like cute. Like, I used to be like, oh my god, yes, Rasan, but I just felt like icky, and it was unsatisfying. However, we also get point of views from Cassian and Nesta, which is why this book got 3.25 stars instead of less. Because Cassian and Nesta are my new ship in this series, and I love them. And I have loved them since the first book, because in my first book, I had like an exclusive short story about Cassian and Nesta, and no one else seemed to like have the information that I did, except the people who had that copy as well. I think it was Books A Million or Target, maybe Target. It was an exclusive short story, and it was all about Cassian and Nesta. And since I've read that story, I have been a Cassian and Nesta shipper. And to all those who hate Nesta, I don't care. I love Nesta. Nesta sucked in the first book, but as time went on, I realized that Nesta's a strong-willed, just incredibly cold-hearted woman, because she has to be. That's the only way she can survive. And we all gotta survive in some way. So mad props to Nesta, who is just frustrating me, but also my baby Cassian and Azrael. I love them. I love them so much. But also this kind of aggravated me because I feel like low-key Rasan was torturing more by bringing her to, well, I'm not, spoilers. Anyway, yeah, it was not horrible, but it wasn't what I wanted, so it got 3.25 stars. It's not the worst thing I've read, obviously, because I read The Heart Goes Last, but it wasn't the best. I have a full-length review on my blog for ACOFAS, so I'll leave a link down below, and you can go and read all my thoughts about it, because I had some. Let's see. The next book that I read is called I Am Still Alive by Kate Marshall. I got this as an ARC from Penguin, from their First to Read program, which I was incredibly excited for. This is a YA suspense survival thriller, which sounded like it would be a stompin' good time. It follows Jess, who lives in the wilderness with her father, and she survived a car accident that killed her mother, and she has faced an impairment of her body. So she's been going through physical therapy and stuff, and she's living in the wilderness with her father in the middle of nowhere in Canada. Well, things happen. The cabin burns down, and now she's all alone by herself. And this is the story of her survival. I gave this 2 stars. It was okay. The writing was alright. It didn't grip me. The story itself was okay. The characters, it's a really forgettable story. I'm going to be honest with you. Everything about this is subpar and grazing the line. And the writing's mediocre, the characters are mediocre, the villain is mediocrely ridiculous, and there's also a graphic scene with a dog, and I wasn't here for it. So yeah, those are some of the books that I read in 2018. Disappointing round of books. I guess I recommend this one the most. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of these books. Bye, don't forget to subscribe, and happy reading!